never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Fine.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed all the college football action from yesterday. We didn't have as many good games or great games as we did a week ago, but it was still a pretty good slate of games yesterday overall, and a couple of good games on Friday night. So today here on the channel, I want to talk about that. As always, if you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them in the comments section down below the video. While you're there, give the video a like, give it a thumbs up, and share it on all social media platforms, and we would greatly appreciate it. Friday night, Louisville defeated NC State 13-10. Now NC State was up 10-0, but then never scored again, and I'll be honest with you, quite frankly, I honestly have no idea what's happened to Brennan Armstrong. Now, I never thought he had any chance of going to the NFL. He has a strong arm, but outside of that, that's about all he's got. But he was good enough to where if your team didn't have a lot of turnovers or a lot of penalties, he was going to keep you in the game and win most games for you. But he leaves Virginia and transfers to NC State, and he all of a sudden just looks flat out awful. And there was 5 or 6 plays Friday night that you could just tell he just quit on the play. And I don't really know what's made him be like this, but it really is sad because you can see him, regressing big time, but you can't really do anything about it unless you know exactly what's wrong with him. But it would be bad to see him transfer from Virginia to NC State and then get benched in the middle of the season. And he should be comfortable because the OC was his old OC at Virginia. And I know that I've mentioned here on the channel numerous times that, they're not going to be allowed to run the same offense they ran when they were in Charlottesville, because Dave Doran is a very conservative coach. He's only going to allow you to do so much, and I get that, but the times when Armstrong does drop back and throw the ball, he just looks flat out pitiful. Oregon State defeated Utah 21-7. Now, during the game, the Fox color analyst Spencer Tillman made a comment about Oregon State quarterback DJU that said, from his observation, DJ is good at everything, but he's not great at anything. And I would say that's about accurate. But when you're good at everything, if the team you're playing for has a good defense, you're going to win most of your games. And Oregon State's defense is really, really good. but I would say that's a pretty accurate statement that DJU is good at everything, but he's not great at nothing, but his teammates love him. But Utah has been without their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, all year, and they just absolutely refuse to say when he'll be back. But they're off next weekend, so they play again in 2 weeks. And I'm going to go out and say it's my prediction that if Cam Rising is not back in 2 weeks' time, he's out for the season. I don't know why they don't just go ahead and say that unless they're afraid that their fan base is going to go, oh man, we don't have our quarterback, we're done for. And they're hoping that with them not knowing, they'll continue to think and hope he'll be back. But if he can't come back after missing the first 5 games and having a bye week, I think he's out for the season. BYU defeated Cincinnati Friday night as well, 35-27. BYU is led by quarterback Keaton Slovis, who of course started out at USC. Then he went to Pittsburgh, and now he's at BYU. And Cincinnati is led by Emory Jones, who played for Florida, then Arizona State, and now he is in Cincinnati. And then yesterday, USC defeats Colorado 48-41. USC was actually up 48-21, and it looked like they pretty much knew they had the game in the bag, and they almost let Colorado get back in that game, but USC hangs on 48-41. I continue to not trust the Trojans' defense at all. Kentucky defeated Florida by the score of 33-14. Kentucky is now 5-0 on the season. And speaking of quarterbacks struggling, former NC State quarterback that is now at Kentucky, which is the reason why Brennan Armstrong is now at NC State, Devin Leary. Devin Leary was a great quarterback when he was in Raleigh. The only problem he always had was he can't stay on the field. He gets hurt at least one time every year, and I think before this year's up, he'll get hurt sometime this year. But when he played, he was very, very good. But so far this year at Kentucky, he's been average at best. If you look at yesterday, don't watch the game, just look at his stat line, and you can tell that he did basically next to nothing. But Kentucky ran the ball about as good as you can run the ball. And Florida continues to just have no offense to speak of. Texas A&M defeats Arkansas by the score of 34-22. Utah State blocked a game-tying extra point to defeat UConn 34-33. Clemson defeats Syracuse 31-14. It was definitely Clemson's best performance of the year so far. It's their first win over a Power 5 opponent because the other 2 wins came against Group of 5 teams. So it's their first win over a Power 5 opponent. They still didn't look great. They scored 31 points because they forced 2 early Syracuse turnovers that led to points, but they still didn't move the ball up and down the field with regularity. Cade Klubnik made a few great throws, but he also made 2 or 3 head-scratching throws. Tulane defeats UAB 35-23. James Madison defeats South Alabama 31-23. Buffalo over Akron 13-10. Minnesota over Louisiana 35-24. Appalachian State over Louisiana Monroe 41-40. Virginia Tech 38. Pittsburgh 21. Pittsburgh falls to 1-4 on the season, and they look just absolutely dreadful. The Hokies are now 2-3, so they're definitely going to be an improved team record-wise by the time this year is over with. And speaking of the quarterbacks who are struggling, not only do we have NC State's Brennan Armstrong and Kentucky's Devin Leary, but Pittsburgh's quarterback is Phil Jurkovec. Of course, Phil Jurkovec started out at Notre Dame, then he transferred and had a couple of really good seasons in Boston College. He struggled last year. He transferred to Pittsburgh, and this year he looks like he has forgotten what football is. And I always thought Phil Jurkovec actually had a chance of playing in the NFL. He still might get drafted because of his potential, because a lot of times NFL teams will draft you because of your potential. But if he does get drafted based on potential, that's what it's going to be about, not because of productivity, because his production level has just basically gone away. Boston College defeated Virginia 27-24. California, who's been awful now for about a handful of years, is actually decent this year. They defeat Arizona State 24-21. Maryland wins again. They defeat Indiana 44-17. Georgia Tech finally got a conference win last week over Wake Forest, but now it doesn't mean anything because yesterday they lose to Bowling Green 38-27. Bowling Green drives me crazy because some folks call them Bowling Green and some say they're Bowling Green State. Which one are they? You're either Bowling Green or you're Bowling Green State. You can't be both. Make your mind up. That's as bad as Auburn being the Tigers and War Eagles. Which one do you want to be? Texas Tech defeats Houston 49-28. Baylor has, I believe, the biggest comeback win in team history. It might be the second biggest comeback win, but they defeat Central Florida 36-35, but it was actually Central Florida 35, Baylor 7 in the third quarter. And speaking of Florida teams, South Florida defeats Navy 44-30. Memphis defeats Boise State 35-32. Food beat East Carolina 24-17. Georgia Southern 38, Coastal Carolina 28, Iowa 26, Michigan State 16. And I know I've made many comments on here about Iowa being an anomaly because this day and time football is all about offense and you win with offense, and Iowa has no offense at all, but they still win 8 or 9 games a year. So just think about how good they would be if they had just an average offense. But you can tell that Kirk Ferentz is okay with it because if you watch a coach's press conference, especially if it's one of the teams who are down at the bottom 10, bottom 15 in total offense, if you mention in their press conference anything about, their offense struggling, all coaches give you coach speak. Yeah, we've got to get better. That's not acceptable. We've got to improve. We've got to find out what's wrong. Just different answers, but they're basically all coach speak for saying, yeah, right now on offense we suck. But if you ask Kirk Ferentz about Iowa's offense just being so bad, he'll always say, doesn't matter as long as we win. So he's telling you, I don't care if we score 3 points a game, as long as the other team scores 2 or 0. But again, last night Iowa had no offense at all, but they win again. Notre Dame defeats Duke 21-14. A couple of quick notes on that game. Duke was up 14-13 late in the game, and the Fighting Irish had a 4th and 16, and Sam Hartman took off running, and he's not the fastest guy in the world to begin with. But on 4th and 16, when you see the quarterback take off running, you think, no, don't run. But after about 5 yards of running, you were like, yeah, run, because there was nobody in sight. But on 4th and 16, he picked up about 18 yards, and then Notre Dame scored on, I believe, the very next play. And then on the last play of the game, Duke quarterback Riley Leonard got hurt. And if you have not seen the replay, go watch it. This is just a guess. I do not know this, but my guess is he's going to be out for the year. West Virginia defeats TCU 24-21. And a quick note on that game, in case you didn't watch it. Late in the game, I believe it was TCU's last drive. They actually drove down, got in field goal range, and the field goal was blocked. So the Mountaineers win the game 24-21. But there was actually a time towards the beginning of the drive that TCU ran 3 straight plays, and on all 3 plays, the Mountaineers had a defensive player get hurt. On one of the plays, 2 Mountaineers defenders got hurt. And on one of the plays, they had to bring out the cart because the man could not walk. So obviously, he was hurt. But the TCU fans, because the game was in Texas last night, TCU fans booed on all 3 plays. And I don't mean this as if I'm taking a shot at TCU, because I'm not. I'm just talking about it because it happened to them last night. But on all 3 plays, when the Mountaineers had either players or multiple players get hurt, the TCU fans booed. And fans need to stop that. You make yourselves look dumb, stupid, like idiots, classless, cold-hearted, whatever words you want to use, they're all correct. But for some reason now, fan bases think that if their team has the ball, anytime the defense has a player get hurt, he's faking. But there is a such thing as an actual real injury. Now, if you watched the Georgia game yesterday, there was a time in that game where you could clearly see the Auburn coaches on the sidelines telling a player to lay down, act hurt. Well, yeah, that's egregious, and you could see it. It was obvious. Then if you want to boo, you boo. But if you don't know and a player looks hurt, especially if the cart comes on the field, don't boo. He's hurt. Fans need to stop doing that. The Braves have a player named Spencer Strider that early last week came out and said that baseball should be played in empty stadiums. The fans should be taken away. And of course, a lot of people got mad about that, but when you see things like this, you know why he said it. There's no reason to boo because a player gets hurt. And then you have times where fans throw things on the field. People are stupid. 75% of people are stupid. And that's the reason why Spencer Strider made those comments. And then the fans of the team or teams get mad when players say things like that, but then you go out and do things like that, and you wonder why the players say stuff like that. Earlier this year, Ronald Acuna Jr. was actually attacked on the field. Now, where security guards were, I don't know, but he was actually attacked on the field by 2 fans, and it was innocent, thank God. All they wanted was an autograph. And again, where security was, I don't know, but that's just stupid. Get there early and get it before the game. Don't run on the field. What in the world in your mind tells you it's a good idea to run on the baseball field during a game? And you see all the time where fans run on the field during football games. It's stupid. It's idiotic. If we don't like players coming out and saying, hey, we shouldn't have fans, don't do stupid stuff to make players say stuff like that. But Georgia defeats Auburn by the score of 27-20, and we were actually watching that game yesterday backstage at GCW before the show started last night, and one of the guys that I was talking to was talking about all the bettors who betted on Georgia to cover the spread, whatever it was, probably not being happy because he didn't think Georgia was going to cover the spread. And I think at that time they were up, I believe, 20-17. And I told him, well, first of all, anybody that bets is already stupid because you just do not know in sports what's going to happen. But if you bet on Georgia to cover a spread right now, you're a bigger idiot because Georgia has not looked great in any game they play. So what in the world in your mind makes you think that they ain't played good all year long for a whole game, and then all of a sudden against Auburn, they're going to play good the whole game. Nothing should tell you that. Georgia's had good quarters. They've had good drives. They've had good halves. But as far as from start to finish looking great, they haven't. So if they play somebody and they're favored by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and you pick them, you're crazy until they prove to you they're going to play a good 4-quarter game. Texas defeats Kansas 40-14. Ole Miss, LSU would have been better off just playing the game with no defense at all on the field because you made your defenses look flat out awful. But Ole Miss defeats LSU 55-49, and it did come down to the very last play of the game. LSU was in scoring range, and of course, being down by 6, they couldn't kick a field goal, had to go for it. And the ball was batted down, but it came down to the last play of the game. So Ole Miss makes up for the loss to Alabama last week, but it only helps them if they continue to win. I believe they play Arkansas next week. If you beat LSU and then come out the next week and lose to Arkansas, then beating LSU doesn't mean anything at all. Tennessee defeats South Carolina 41-20. And Alabama defeated Mississippi State 40-17. Again, any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. And enjoy all the NFL games today, which may already be happening depending on when you watch this video, but the Falcons and Jaguars are playing at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time because they are over in England. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. And before I get to my dad joke of the day, let me go back to Georgia for a couple of minutes, because I've mentioned here on the channel numerous times that not just Georgia fans, but no fan base is ever happy. And we live in a day and time because of social media where whoever your team is, sometimes you think to yourself, man, I wish I didn't pull for that team because our fans are flat out stupid. But unfortunately, every fan base has those. But because of all the different social media platforms nowadays, every time a player does something bad or a coach does something bad, every single fan of that team wants to get on some social media platform and bash that player. And I've said before here on the channel numerous times that I never have understood why the Georgia fans don't like Mike Bobo. I've never understood it. Most fan bases say that they want coaches, who are born and bred into whoever their team is. Well, that's what Mike Bobo is. He played for Georgia. He coached there on the offensive side of the ball for years before becoming a head coach, and now he's back. But for whatever reason, the Georgia fans have just never liked Mike Bobo. Even though the most successful season Georgia's ever had on the offensive side of the ball, the coordinator was Mike Bobo. But Georgia fans still do not like Mike Bobo. And I heard an interview, I want to say it was Friday morning, on Sports Talk station with a Georgia beat writer. And the guys on the show were asking the Georgia beat writer what he thought it would take for the Georgia fans to embrace Mike Bobo. And he said probably come out win the game about 65-0 because our fans hate Bobo so much. It doesn't matter what he does. They're going to boo him. They're bringing up, his girlfriend from 5th grade. They're bringing up that he failed a class in 7th grade. You know, they're bringing up the car he drove 30 years ago. You know, they're doing anything they can to bash Mike Bobo. And I'm sure they're doing it again after yesterday's game, even though they won again. But I bring it up because it shows you how fan bases are never happy. And even though Georgia's won 2 straight national championships, they're still not happy. It's just like if a team goes 0-12, guess what the fans are going to say? I just want to win a game. But then as soon as you win that one game, you know what they say? They don't say, well, 1-11, I'm happy. They say, I want to win 2 games. And then when they get 2 wins, they don't say, I'm satisfied now. No, they say, man, I want to win 3 or 4 games. Then they win 3 or 4 games. They don't say, I'm fine now. They say, no, I want to get 6 and go to a bowl game. You get to 6, then they say, man, I'm tired of being average. I want to get 8 or 9 wins. They get 8 wins, and guess what? They want 10 wins. They get 10 wins, guess what? They want 12 wins. They get 12 wins, they make the playoffs. Oh, I want to play for a championship. They play for a championship, I want to win a championship. That's just how fans are. So no matter who your team is, the fan base, you're always going to have about 20% that are never going to be happy no matter what. And then you're going to have about 25 to 30% who are going to support the team. Win, lose, or draw, doesn't matter. And then you're going to have about 50 or 55% that are kind of just in the middle, but they don't use any kind of social media, so you don't really know how they feel. But social media has definitely changed the way fans are. And Arkansas coach Sam Pittman came out in an interview last week and said that he got off of, I think he was talking about Twitter, but it might have been Facebook, but he was talking about one of the social media platforms, saying he got off of it because how fans are. They get on there and they find out you're on there and they want to question everything you do and bash everything you do and ask you all kind of questions on how come you didn't do this? You know, why didn't you do this? What happened to this player? How come this guy didn't play more? You should have kicked the field goal here. And they get on there and they use these fake screen names so you can't say anything because you don't know who they are because they don't have enough guts to get on there and post under their real name. So they'll use SpongeBob 1974. So you have no idea who it is. And he said, I think if fans are going to get on there and post, they should have to use their real name. That way you know who they are. But that's why fans do it, because they can get on there and create 17 accounts and you don't know who they are. But let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call an angry carrot? A steamed veggie. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.